Welcome back to the Golden Blab, episode 16. Adam and Kevin back from Vegas, back from the 4th of July. All right, so we missed a couple of weeks, maybe, sort of, kind of. We had a pretty good excuse.
I was going to say, it took Las Vegas and the Worlds to get us to miss an episode. So to our credit, I think neither of us thought we would go as long as we did without missing an episode, just because shit's busy.
It is. Life's busy. We are going to relive the Worlds in all of its glory, and there was a lot of glory. And also, it's always such an interesting time of year because you come back from Worlds, and it's update time, right? Content is out there. We'll talk about that. And the vibe internally has definitely changed as we gear up for our final push. So, first and foremost, World Championship, job well done. I know you put a lot of time into it. Andy Kuhlman, all the IT folks. I guess it's starting with thank you from me, Steve Sobel and Paige and Andy's crew that he hired, XP Network, who is there learning a lot about our systems, the Palms, the players, obviously, everybody who attended. I thought it was one of the cleanest events we've ever had. Like, the outside, and this is a funny thing to start. We can get the crappy stuff out of the way. There was a 5 to 5-ish minute ITnet outage, right?
Perfect timing.
Which was like a random, like, ITnet, like connectivity wise, and it was fine. It was 5 minutes. They figured it out, and it was something very, very odd and very random and very technical. We can't explain it, but in the moment, my diaper is full. I have shit my pants as much as it can be shit. When is it going to end? And thank God it did not. That we can tell that story in the pod because externally we're waving like, just a minute, boys. Internally,
don't worry about anything.
I'm crying and then hoping that because there's nothing we can do. It's a helpless situation. John Noble.
We're about to crown our first casual world champion. As John Noble and Greg Thayard are like, don't fucking talk to us right now because we're working on shit.
Yeah, it's unfortunately when those things happen, and it's part of the good. You go to the dark side and you say, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" But that was, to me, Kevin, like, honestly, joking aside, it was a really fun. It was a fun 4, 5, 6, 7, 38 days, however long we were out there. I thought it was a really well run, well played event.
No, I agree, and I appreciate that. There, I think over the years, as I've done more of these, as Andy Kuhlman's done more of these, and we've changed venues, and the scope of the event has changed. Obviously, this year we combined mobile and arcade again. They all have their pluses and minuses, and when I say minuses, it's mostly because I think between my 6-hour airport delay, I think I left my house at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, and I got back to that same house at 11 p.m. on the following Monday. So, that they're long weeks, but honestly, like the players, the event, the brand, the game, all that, and especially with the 35th anniversary, it makes all that worth it. And all the time you spend in meetings and doing this and that, and, Rob and Dolores and people from the Palms, running around crazy to, make adjustments and make things better for us as they can. And obviously everybody on our side and the staff, as I'll call it, just to make it easier, really knocked out of the park. And just like any event, any live event, something can go wrong and you got to adjust for it. And,
something always goes wrong. And I don't even mean that in a, like, you're going to have something is not, you're going to have an issue with the game. You're going to have an issue with the internet. The internet, by the way, was incredible. Like the ITnet issue wasn't, this was probably
location based.
No. Like I got to give them credit. Although we paid for it, we paid for good internet. We paid for very good internet. And that's
at least
a relief.
They delivered.
Well, that's a relief because that is such a common issue. But like over the years of this, you think of all the things, I mean, going back to, a car driving through, into and knocking out ITnet because it drove through, it actually crashed into where the connectivity would take place. Like there are stories that summarize, and you really just kind of hope, that you're not going to deal that and you have a clean event. I thought both tournaments, incredibly well played, so high level. We could start with the mobile tournament. Like I could speak for you too. I'm always a little bit of a fish out of water. At first, especially when I see these new courses on mobile, because I'm not grinding like a lot of these guys are. But then you kind of get into the flow, and it blows my mind. It blows my mind in a different way than the arcade. And I'm sure you could speak to the same thing of what is normal at high level Golden Tee mobile, like championship level golf. These guys are, it's fucking crazy what they can do with the various golf balls and tools that they have.
Yeah, honestly, if it wasn't for our, our tag team partners, so to speak, of Chad Trump and Chris Longino, they really help us when it comes to commentary, not just for the whole event, but from the aspect of, Chad Trump. I love him, but he's so goddamn analytical. It drives me up a wall sometimes. But that's what you need for that. When you have you or I on color, like he is just so
It's
he is
crazy.
perfect for that, and he's playing in the event too. So he is, he's kind of like a madman in that regards.
I feel bad for him too, by the way. And I want to I'm glad you brought those guys up because Chad, Chad plays and commentates, and I don't think he's able to fully immerse himself in playing as a result. He makes a sacrifice to do it, and I'm glad he does because he can't. He is black belt level, multi-time black belt in mobile, and he also has a great voice. I don't have a good commentating voice. It's feeling particularly smoked 18 packs of cigarettes here this morning. We don't usually record in the morning. Hence why we needed a gallon of honey to get through the event last week, which was fun.
Yes.
Those guys are rock solid. And Chad in particular, when it comes to the mobile stuff, like, I don't know about you, but like when I'm sitting there with him, it's like, I kind of get the hell out of the way. Like, more so than usual. I know my role.
No, it's great. And for having the 4th Golden Tee Mobile World Championship, it's very interesting that, and it's exciting that Rick Coppathorne, he came back from the loser side to win. And honestly, now we have 4 Mobile World Championship events and 2-time world champions, because Tony Johnson winning last year won his second. And obviously with Rick winning a couple weeks ago, he is now a 2-time world champ. And it's also fun to see all the mobile community come together, because there's not as many in-person events for mobile outside of Windy City, which is amazing. And that's a player run tournament in the suburbs here of Chicago. But you typically only get 1 or 2 times a year to see those guys. And when you see people in Vegas, and the same goes for arcade, it's just a different animal, but you could tell how appreciative everyone was of that venue, of the event, of all the work that Andy, and John Noble and his team and his squad, really have put in on the mobile side.
Rick played one of the greatest games of Golden Tee on any platform period I've ever seen. And I like watching him play, even though it looks like he's in pain when he's playing. Like he's grinding over every single shot, and it shows. Tony Johnson getting knocked out early. You had a really interesting bracket. Like the mobile bracket was fascinating as Tony kind of got knocked out and everybody got a breath. You had Riley Hitchcock in there. I thought it made for a super compelling event. And to echo what you said, congrats, Rick, because he is he takes his time. The pace of this is always fascinating to me. Like, guys play at different paces. They slow down. They look at the screen. It's really, really interesting, unlike the arcade where they're both just standing over this, arcade machine. Rick is very deliberate, but he like seizes that time and makes the most of it. And job well done by him. And for everybody, like you said, it was a really unbelievable event. And we loved having everybody there, and we loved having both tournaments there. Switching to the arcade side, as mobile is going on, it kind of amazed me when we opened the doors and we said, all right, mobile guys, you can get going. The flood of people in the arcade that were here to warm up and play games was awesome. And I thought that was really, really cool. Just in general, like, I know we expect guys to show up, but I don't know if I expected them to show up as early as they did and just start banging out games.
No, it's fun to see too, because that's what makes that room at the Palms work really well too. is there was enough space where the mobile guys had their area, and we had 22 golden PGA Tour machines there. So it also helped our bar bill. It helped those guys, of course, just enjoy
For
Vegas,
sure.
and it felt in a positive way. It felt like a regular Golden Tee tournament on a Thursday and a Friday, because those guys were there, as like you said, as early as they could be, and they were there until they got kicked out later in the evening. Like 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12, whatever it was. So that's always fun to see. It really. It kind of elevates, in my mind, it elevates the World Championship to another level, because you have more those arcade guys there. They're watching the mobile tournament. They're hanging out as it gets closer to the finals. And they're also kind of warming up for what's going to be a long, challenging and exciting weekend for themselves.
Yeah, and on the arcade side, one of the themes that you and I talked about, we talked about it with Chris Longino, who obviously was awesome at the event. We talked, Chad on the mobile side. Chad also did a ton of commentary on the arcade side, but that's more of Chris's sweet spot, and he was great as usual. Go check out his podcast as well. But we kind of talked about the field of capable winners growing larger. And we asked that, we talked about it with Chris, and we said, hey, is this a real thing? And lo and behold, the 31st seed in our main bracket, who barely made the cut. It was a tough cut. Getting to the qualifier, those last two courses just absolutely fucking annihilated these guys. We were talking in commentary like, oh, the cut's going to be this. It's going to be 133. Is it going to go higher? And then, Cumberland happened, right? Like Cumberland
you end up
happened.
with a 129, and everyone's kind of surprised, because we saw a lot of dreams broken on 18 of Cumberland.
Brutal.
Kinsler, Brandon Robinson, a lot of people.
The first round we watched was clean. I forget who it was. I want to say it was Evan Gossett and his group. I could be completely wrong. Probably am. But we watched it, and I don't think you had the same carnage. And then from that point forward, it seemed like everywhere you looked, it was distraught faces. Yeah. And so, but back to so 31st gets in. You got to play the 2 seed, right? Not an ideal draw. And Mark Gomez, who has obviously elevated his game over the last 5 to 8 years in an incredible way, goes wire to wire and wins. I think it's one of the more unique accomplishments in the history of the game. And I think it is, in a lot of ways, symbolically showcasing just how much better that, I don't want to say second tier, but how much better, how much deeper the tournament group has gotten. Capable guys to win when you can have someone go wire to wire and not shy away from that spotlight and absolutely pull it off. And it was pretty astonishing.
Yeah, and it's a really tough break for Paul Taylor, because Paul Taylor had a chance to do something that nobody except technically Andy Haas did in an 8-year gap, which is go back to back in winning world championships. And for as amazing of a player Paul Taylor is, you hate to see something like that end on a missed putt, but those guys had gone long into extras. Yep. I don't have the number in my head right now, but I mean, I know my heart was racing, because not because I had to get on stage and interview these guys, but just because I'm trying to find a sweet spot where I'm not standing in somebody's way, but I could watch the action live. And because you knew it could end at any second, because both these guys, Paul Taylor is one of the best. We saw it last year at Worlds, around a year ago this time. There's a reason why he is the 2023 world champ. And, if anybody was going to possibly take down Gomez in that first match and go for a second one, it could have been him. But obviously Gomez playing lights out, so he's going, he's on his up and up. So and you saw it from the raw emotion of Gomez when he won, just kind of taking, it felt like 20 minutes, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It was 2 to 3 minutes of him just kind of hands over his head, just processing what the hell just happened? Is this real? And I think he even said that in his interview with me of I'm just still processing how in the hell am I here on the stage? And the other fun part about it is that Gomez won the silver bracket, the 64-man bracket at last year's World. So for him to go from the silver bracket and, play as well as he did and on Sunday, again, especially as that 31 seed, there's a lot of many different accomplishments for him, and it's not just him being the 2024 world champ. It's the way he got there.
Quick, I have thoughts on this, but quick pause. If you're watching on YouTube, you probably saw me mute my mic, and all of this can stay in the pod. This is a family atmosphere. I'm working at home today,
especially when we say fuck.
This is a rare work from home day for me, and the number of children of mine that are already shuffling in the basement, making it hard to actually record a Golden Tee podcast, is astonishing. This is why I don't do this, Kevin. I'm just saying out loud. All right. That being said, tears, pure man, grown man tears. Mark bent over the game. One of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in Golden Tee. Dave Sandmeyer. Dave Sandmeyer of Golden Tee last chance qualifier lore, bawling, sobbing for a half hour, coming up and hugging us, saying, "I can't stop crying." I say this, I was touched. I was genuinely touched. We laugh, but in the moment, I think it's so cool that you find these support systems, and like I thought for people like that. And of course, I think the domestic alcohol doesn't hurt. It's the gasoline to ignite the emotional fire. We all know this. But to have a support system like that and have your people truly feel that way about this, I think it's so cool. Like I thought that was amazing. And seeing those guys embrace each other it felt like the Stanley Cup. Like whatever the hell happened that rest of that night, that must have been a good time. So I love the emotional element, and I just love the fact that, hey, Mark Gomez is a guy, if you want to get really good at this game, right, you're listening to this podcast, we're not saying, hey, get good so you can be a world champion. You don't have to do that. But here's a guy that like learned and got better and got better and got better and played in these tournaments, and like the reps. I think the part to me, Kevin, that's most astonishing. Like, look, he's been playing in tournaments now for years. He's played great players. He's been getting better. You stand on that stage, it's different. It is different.
Oh, yeah.
And I think about those guys, even commentating, because it's a very lonely place up there, especially when you get to like that 3-4 o'clock hour where it's the room starts to fill up and they're watching you and their sounds.
And when you're the king of the hill and you've got these gaps, Gomez came back and was playing games to try to keep warm, but if you're not, if you're Andy Haas in that position or an Evan Gossett or a Paul Taylor or a Paul Luna, you're used to like warming up in that gap. Gomez is not, with all due respect to him, and even said that. No. He's like, this all just feels surreal. And it also begs an interesting question, and I'm just doing this because I love Team Wisconsin and I love starting shit, but like, was it all the years of playing with Team Wisconsin that got him to the World Championship, or was it moving to Texas and playing with Gervais and Luna that got him to the World Championship?
It's funny, as I took a break from commentary, I was standing by John Noble and Greg Thayard, who were paying everybody out. And we're in the back room. So everybody, it was basically broken up into 4 different rooms, essentially. And the back room is kind of where we had home base. There was 2 games there. And it was kind of where we posted up shop. Also with Richard King, who I do want to thank, did an unbelievable job taking photos. And that guy, oh my God, that guy's an absolute pro. It was great to have him with us, a huge asset to have. But we're standing there and Gervais walks back with Gomez. And Gervais is like, I'm going to warm him up. Like he's going to keep him. It's like, basically a quarterback throwing footballs on the sidelines as his defense is out there. And it was interesting with Gomez. There was a moment, I forget what song, some pop song came on.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. And it sounded like it was out of his headphones. And we were laughing because we're like, is this what you listen to while you play?
But it was
and
Gervais.
It was, yeah. And, but he was very loose. Like almost
like
too loose.
Houston or something.
It was something, and it was funny. Like it's almost when a pitcher's throwing like a no hitter or a perfect game, you don't want to fuck with him, right? You don't want to screw with him. You want to leave him alone. You see that when they're sitting by themselves, and I think even with Gomez, like we've been around these long enough where like, hey buddy, how's the fam? No, it ain't time for that, right? Like, you want to have a moment, but he was very loose and also wanting to see what was going on. It was like the most like calm. And at that point, you're like, oh my God, like, I don't think this dude really is all that concerned with who he plays with or what he has to do. And to play that many holes extra, I mean, dude, you've been in those matches. Those are terrifying matches in non-world championship level, those sudden death matches. You're just holding on for dear life for every shot your opponent hits because he, guy like Andy Fox, who factored very, very well in this tournament, when you're playing against him, you are just waiting for the ball to drop. And that's the case with all of these guys too. So I always come away from this learning a lot because you just, you see so many different things, and I'm just in awe at the level of skill that we have in our game. And I hope that we had record viewership numbers for our stream, by the way, across all of our magnitude of platforms. Thank you to everybody who watched. I would imagine if you watch for a prolonged period of time, and goddamn, you guys watched for a prolonged period of time, which we appreciate, you learned a little thing about Golden Tee, probably more than a little bit of about it.
Yeah, the other thing I want to do too before I forget is I want to shout out Corey Neely, who took 9 through 12, and also Johnny Daher, who took 5-6. Johnny D is not somebody who plays in as many live tournaments as he used to, but somebody who's been around the game for 10 plus years. And also somebody who we didn't expect to see in that, that top 8 echelon. And again, this isn't just me being a jackass. This is like, words from these guys too, because you could be a good player. You can play well in the daily contest or 18 hole, for prizes, but you go to a national tournament, the vibes are different. You go to a world championship and it's a completely different story to a certain extent. And for Corey Neely, a newer player who's been going to tournaments for a few years, but kind of just like Gomez has been getting better. People question, is he really getting this good? Like, what's going on here? And then you play as well as you do in the world championship, and you really kind of silence some of those doubts.
Yeah. It was interesting. You were seeing who was going to emerge. Was it going to be him? Was it going to be Gomez? And the answer really was all of them. Gomez obviously ran up top, but when you look at that, when you look at our final standings, it is pretty amazing to see. I also want to give Joe Massara a shout out as well, who finished 4th. Joe's game against Andy Haas was a 32 under. He dropped that was a bulldozer, right? Like that was a straight up bulldozer game. And I was talking to Andy afterwards, who was obviously disappointed, right? Andy played really well, but didn't win. And if he doesn't win, I think in Andy's mind, he doesn't play well. And we were talking about it, like, would you rather lose to a 32 under, or would you rather lose on a late hole out, sudden death? I've been thinking about that question. I think I'd rather lose to a 32 under, because if you're in a match, you're going to think about what you did or didn't do close, like in a close match. If you lose to a 32, which all these guys in that level are capable of dropping, like, you just got like that. Joe,
yeah,
Andy has done that like a bazillion times over the year. Joe obviously is more than capable of doing it. Like, it happens. I feel like it's like your football team, right? Or the White Sox, who lose these games fucking horribly every other day now. Sorry, Kevin, those are your White Sox. Would you rather lose a baseball game 10-1 or 3-2 in extras? I think I'd rather lose it 10-1. I can be at peace.
See, with baseball, I'd rather lose 3-2, especially when your team's playing like dog shit, as you just very clearly and happily alluded to. Just because your Mets pulled their head out of their ass the last month. Let's see if that continues.
No, we know where that's going. You'll have ample time to the Mets gonna Mets. So to be clear,
yeah.
But Joe, I thought that was one of the really more unbelievable performances of the event, and some other takeaways. Well, go ahead, and then I could jump into some other things.
I was just gonna say, if you gave most of the Golden Tee community 4 names: Joe Massara, Andy Fox, Paul Taylor, Mark Gomez, and you said put them in your top 4 in the order that you think they would be, I think people would probably say probably Taylor, Massara right there, 1, 2, Fox, and Gomez. And it's a testament to how good some of these guys have gotten. But like Andy Fox has been playing forever. A 3rd place finish for him at Worlds is amazing. But Gomez, Taylor, Fox, Masora, I don't think a lot of people had that on their bingo card as the order for the
No,
top four. Evan Gossett and Johnny D taking fifth, sixth. It's every year I'm more and more astonished at who's stepping up, and these top fours. It's getting harder and harder to predict them all the time.
which is great, by the way. I'll say this: we don't root for anybody. We root for good content. That's all I want. I want a good time, and I want good content, and I just want no IT net outages. That would be the other one.
Thanks, John.
No, and I'll say this. So I really like this venue. When we were moving stuff in, I was a little terrified. How's it all going to shape out? You've got boxes, you've got TVs, you've got a lot of coordination. When it got into place, I was really, really happy. Without getting into the specifics, I could say fully transparent that we are going to work to try to get back into this location again next year. There's some things we'd want to change, which we don't have to go into, but there's some things that, what did I say? Yesterday, you and I joked, and I said, oh, well, there's a lot more bad than good. And I meant there was a lot more good than bad.
Yeah.
There was a ton more good than bad. We do a postmortem after every event we do, and we say, let's talk about it. What went right? What went wrong? From venue to our communication to whatever.
Logistics planning, all that.
Logistics planning, shipping the games, all of it. And there was so many more positives than I can ever remember, that we're like, okay, let's try and do this again. And so that process truly will start in earnest in the next week or two to figure out, okay, we like this venue, we like this location a lot. How can we make it more accommodating for our players? How can we make it work for us? What can we do a little differently? So we're going to try and do that, because the planning for this next year's event starts now. That is the funny thing about this that people don't realize. The planning for this year's event started before last year's event happened. It's just the way it works, right? So we will update you guys when we have it, but we are already off and running on this, which is good.
Yeah, and to tie a bow on the Worlds, one of the things that internally we discussed since day one of planning this event was, what could we do to honor the legacy of Mark Stenmark, who we lost last year, a two-time world champion in his own right, on Mount Rushmore, somebody who, even when he didn't play Golden Tee a lot before Worlds, could come and show up and have a ridiculous run. And obviously through power events, through the community, there's been a lot that's been going on. We're working on things that we've already talked about for Golden Tee 2025. But one of the things we wanted to do was to work with Mark's mom and the family to do something at Worlds. And so, between a piece of all the merch sales we did, which again, I felt it was very appropriate to wear our Worlds polo for today, because I know there's been a lot of good discussions in the last couple of weeks of what can we do with merch and how can we do it more? How can we do it better? So I appreciate everybody that bought shirts and polos and swag bags, all that. But between the portion of the merch sales and a portion of the tournament fees for Money Shot, Target Rush, doubles, all that, and just general donations, we put together $2,395 that we're going to donate to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They're based out of Virginia. They have a local Houston chapter that has been, they've been working with Stenmark's family and close friends on doing some stuff in his honor. And so we wanted to, do our part to, to continue just his legacy and honor him, because, there will never be a world championship without the mention of Mark Stenmark's name and, what he meant to the game and the brand, but also to all of us, as a good friend.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's amazing. We, again, we've talked about in the pod that we wanted to do, we've partnered with the Stenmarks and doing donations for every club set in the 2025 edition. That is the Stenmark bag, which we'll talk about more as we get closer to, and we'll show you guys the art. It's pretty amazing. It's cool to build upon that. As a fun aside to a really nice and touching thing. So the cash from all of the games, we donated all the cash. So we got in the actual physical dollars. I was in the process of, I brought all that home in a very shady envelope. And I got home and I brought it out of my computer bag, and I'm like looking at this thing and I'm like, how did the TSA not stop me? Like, it's small bills. It is a huge wad of cash that I counted, and you and I were texting that night I got home. I said, I want to see what the donation is. Harder than I thought it would be, by the way. Watching Little House of Dragons, catching up, having a glass of wine, counting all the dollars that I haphazardly got home safe and sound. But the optics of the envelope that it was in, Kevin, it's like ripped. There's like shit, right? Like writing all over it. Like,
I think I might have thrown your envelope out. I did have them, but
oh, good.
It was
it was just funny, and more it was a really kudos. It was a really good idea. Oh, there you go. There's the dollars.
Accounting yet. But you could tell, yeah, like my pile was nice and clean and about like an eighth of this size, but all the dollar bills and everything from people shoving it in the cabinet. I think part of it helps that you're coming out of Vegas and people probably move thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Anywhere else, they would have been like, "Sir, let's talk in back."
And those dollars have seen some things, man. I'm just telling you, having sorted through every single one of those dollars have been places. Again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody that helped, that supported, that tried to qualify, that wanted to qualify. Please know that we are already talking not just about venue, but the process of getting into next year's Worlds and all the things that we want to do. And amid the myriad of things, we're going to get that going. On the topic of good deeds, by the way, I don't remember if we were able to talk about this the last time we met, which is the Stars and Stripes edition of Golden Tee Go. And I wanted to bring it up, Kevin, because did we talk about this at all? I don't think we did.
No, I can't remember, to be honest, because there was so much going on at that time.
For sure.
I don't think we did.
All right, so just as a quick aside, and I don't want to make this a sales thing, like go buy this thing, but I do want to point out,
go buy it.
Go buy it. No, it's go check it out on our home store. We're taking pre-orders now. It is Golden Tee Go. It is the same portable version of Golden Tee, same software, same portability, but a really unique American themed top. And we partnered with the PGA Tour and Birdies for the Brave, which is kind of an umbrella charity that works with 12 different charities under it. And it's all for vets and military focused. And it's cool. We had an idea to do an America themed items have always had such a strong tie in Golden Tee. Our 4th of July wear, dating back to many, many years ago, has always done well. We love our country and we love the people that protect it and have protected it. So we've designed this thing, and we're going to donate a game to all 12 of these charities within Birdies for the Brave. The response we've gotten from them is overwhelming. In fact, we have to check back in on that and figure out, timing and everything else. But if you want a really unique piece of limited edition Golden Tee, not memorabilia, but a Golden Tee item that, unlike any that we've done, go check it out. And you're really helping support some meaningful causes that matter to us. And more than anything, I think it looks really cool. It obviously plays the exact same. And if you have not seen it, it's worth a look just because it's very, very different.
Yeah. And on that note too, another friend of the program that we really got to know during the World Championship was, the co-founders from the Veterans Golfers Association.
Yes.
And, including one of the really awesome national golf trophies they have, the Soldier. We actually are about to send one to Gomez because I said, just don't take these trophies. You're going to lose these trophies or they're going to get dropped. Just let us take them home and we'll send them to you with the big check that you can hang up at home. But
those were meaty trophies, by the way. Those are big, beautiful trophies. Yeah.
But they are heavy. And, but it was nice talking with Josh and Joe from VGA. And, we talked to them early on in this idea of the USA themed Go. And we had a couple of cold beverages in Las Vegas talking about, what are some things that we could do with vets and with the VGA. And obviously, working with the PGA Tour is great, but it's also nice because they've afforded us the opportunity, that we don't have to just work with Birdies for the Brave. We can work with the VGA and other organizations, to do more of our part, in supporting, like you said, the people that, have fought for our freedoms over the years and continue to do so. And so but it was great to see. I mean, God, it was probably February or March when Josh Pick, our VP of sales at IT, and I started talking with Josh from the VGA, which is totally not confusing at all.
No, not
And
at all.
he said, okay, send me the dates. Great. I've already booked my flight. We'll see you there. And I was like, we're like in the middle of the conversation. I'm like, okay, great. Like, we'll see you there. Like, let's talk and see what we can do to work together and make things happen. So a lot of, pre, during, and post Worlds, a lot of stuff going on, not just GT 2025, which, we'll probably tease here before we have to bounce, but it just, there's so much good going on, and it's really hard to not come off of the World Championship weekend with such a high of like the energy, the love for the game. We still have a lot to do with Golden Tee 2025, the 35th anniversary. We're talking about parties we can do. Totally going to call you out in this podcast because I forgot to ask you yesterday, but I know there's a Nashville tournament coming up in the beginning of August that some people had said they were going to go to, which we need to confirm, or,
I believe so. It was funny. I was talking to Steve Sobel though, and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to play in said tournament. I like, and I don't mean that as like, look, I want to go and have fun and support, and my game sucks. And it's not even playing.
I can
it's
confirm
not even
your game does suck.
It's not even the sucking. I don't care to suck publicly. Please don't clip that. But it's not about that. It's more of like, I don't know if I'm in for the time commitment of what it takes. The grind. I am not Rick Copperthorne, okay? I am not a grinder. I'm there to have fun, help you guys see and disappear into the Nashville night, and you'll never see me for the rest of the tournament. No, but my plan is still to go. I need to get it coordinated, and please delete this if I don't end up going, but the plan is still to go.
Just the Men in Black,
yeah. So on last but not least, GT 2025, we get home, we go into the office, and it is tense. Like, if you know anything about game development, the final, weeks and months of a project are very intense, and the people that make it take great pride in what they do, and they want to make it great. And this week, you guys have done an awesome job of teasing, really not even teasing, but showcasing the new Jim Zielinski courses that will be coming this year. And I think by the time everybody listens to this, they'll all have been out. And it's awesome. Like, if you've not seen, go to goldentee.com, go to one of our social channels. I think the logos are amazing. I think you're going to really like the locations. What are your thoughts on just kind of the showcasing, some of the early thoughts on things?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we're changing things up a bit, and we're showing off the logos. We're going to give it some extra time, kind of like college football game that's coming out soon. Like, we're waiting to show things off, but Bahama Isles, Basin Lake, Palmetto Coast, Lexington Stables, and Sahara Dunes. Thankfully, all names that are much easier to pronounce than years past. All 5 out of 5, very easy. No questions on how the shit to say this. But it's an exciting time because, like I said, you come off the high from Worlds, and it continues with all the momentum we have. And then guess what? We've got these new courses. There's other stuff that I don't want to tease yet, but there's still obviously more courses to come. We've already talked about Closest to the Pin coming back at Worlds. There's we've talked very briefly.
Next week, by the way, I'm glad you brought it up. Next week, we will talk about the 2 things we teased at Worlds, which is Closest to the Pin and kind of the way we're going to redo some of the teas. And that will be next week's episode. Please, let's write that down so I actually fucking remember it. But we will talk about that next week. And folks, I know that got a lot of good response.
But this is an exciting time. I'm just going to keep saying it. It's an exciting time. We'll probably have hours and hours worth of podcasts. We'll get Jim Z on here. We'll get some of the other folks on. Sean, Cleo, Travis, Andy, they're all working hard on the marketing side behind the scenes. Sean always loves having his interviews with Jim Z and Nick Zerwin, who does our audio. There's a design hole coming up. There's so much shit in a good way that it's hard to cram in the calendar when it's at a point where, Mike Sanchez, our art director, says, okay, you guys can show this off. But it's good because these guys, I don't want to call them perfectionists because that sounds wrong, but like, they want this game to be in the best light possible.
The when we go through this process, I think there's very few. I don't know. There's moments that make me really remind me of why I love this game and love what we do. We had one of those yesterday. QA obviously is getting various builds of the game, and we're standing around. And one of our best golden tee, and I say best because he really knows how to play the game. He's been doing it a long time. Dave Casso, the guy's a golden tee sponge. He's firing up kind of an exciting new feature we'll talk about here in the next few weeks, and it happens to integrate with one of our new courses, Sahara Dunes. And we're sitting there and we're just looking at it, right? And
staring like a bunch of,
and we're all like,
losers.
it's just hole one, and we're looking and we're like, God damn, that's odd. Like we sit around, we've done this for years, and we're just looking at hole one, and you're looking at the skybox, the backdrop, you're looking at the sand, obviously, which I guess there's a really interesting art discussion going on right now, is what shade of sand it can be, right behind the curtain stuff, which is great. And it looks great and it gets me excited. And we saw Bahama Isles the other day, right? We've done tropical courses for years. We know that tropical courses are played largely because the weather is so terrible most of the year for many of us, including you and I. So tropical courses always have such a strong place, and it looks awesome and it looks different, and they've come together. This stuff really comes together strong over the last 2 to 3 weeks. You put these things together and you start to put the final pieces together. So I like these moments because for me personally, I try not to get too involved. But next week we get to get our hands on them a little bit more, and we've done this for a while. And it's exciting. We are both huge fans of the game, so we can actually kind of be like little kids again. And I'll say this: there's not many moments that allow us to do that. And but the stuff we're seeing, and we get paid to say this, is exciting. And I think and hope everybody will be excited as they see more. Lexington Stables, I don't know what it is about farm, and it's really not a farm course. We'll let Jim Z talk about it. I know that got a really cool response on social. I was reading some of the comments, like Twitter and everything else. Yeah, that one's got me going too. The horses in that game, I got to do our little zoom cam and like zoom in on some of the horses, Kevin. These are some high quality horses.
They are.
We should get Jim on, I don't know, probably 2 weeks maybe to break down, do like a nice little, bounce around on, everything else. But yeah,
I mean, honestly, Jim feels like that should just be a week of podcast because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah,
for sure with him.
So, all right, we got to run. You got to run. I got to run. But next week we will talk CCTP. We will talk Tease, and we'll talk more 2025 stuff. Thank you again, everybody, for Worlds. Thank you for all the continued support. We got a lot to get to. Kevin, I am Adam. We will talk to you guys soon.